Start her up.
Hey guys, George here from GFW Trains, where we talk about everything, but mostly trains. Today, I'm presenting my grandfather's layout, George Werderich. This layout is the layout I grew up running, and it has a very special place in my heart. I would like to present it to you guys as my 2,000 subscriber special. Grandpa, I love this layout. It's the layout I grew up running. What's the inspiration for this layout?
Well, George, you may or may not know it, but this layout is a story of your grandmother and your grandfather's life. It's the scenery on this layout that really makes the layout. Track work is nice, the running is really good, but the scenery on the layout is the story of our life. It begins basically in both of our hometowns. I was born in downtown Chicago, and my wife was born in I shouldn't say born, but lived most of her life till we were married in a little town in Michigan called Mason, Michigan. And the town square that we have, that's one of the big highlights of the layout, is the town square of Mason, Michigan. There's a little house just off the town square where my wife lived in Mason. The diorama on the back wall is scenery, starts the sequence of where the layout goes. The diorama on the back wall starts in downtown Chicago, which is where I grew up. There's a Wrigley Field there, which I spent many days in my very young days at. There's a football field there, which of course, that is close to where my wife's downtown is. That's Michigan State Spartan Stadium, where she went to school. As the layout proceeds across out to the Mississippi River, you see a big lift bridge on the layout. And that's to designate where the railroad crosses the Mississippi and goes out into the west. As it heads out into the west, it goes to some of our favorite vacationing spots for where we spent many a summer and some winters doing things. Up on the upper terrace, of course, where Godzilla, our pet Japanese dinosaur, is not destroying part of the railroad there. The upper part of the layout is to designate basically Glacier Park in the area out there in Montana, where Mom and I used to go skiing, cross-country skiing, where we vacation in the summer. But we thought a Christmas scene would be more fun, complete with a ski lift and a little station where it's called Essex Junction, which is where we used to go cross-country skiing. Runs right by the Great Northern or Burlington Northern line. And the hotel there used to be the former crew bunkhouse for the crews that worked on keeping the tracks through the Marias Pass open in the winter. On the lower level, as it comes across in that same direction, we have our mountain lines come to Red Rocks. And the Red Rocks are designated another one of our favorite spots in the world. That's Zion National Park. And Zion National Park is where our daughter is the supervising backer for. She's been there 20 years now. And the Red Rocks are Zion, and if you look closely, you'll see a ranger there. You'll see all kinds of things like that. It designated Zion National Park. Down beneath Zion National Park, there's a little airport, and we've designated as the airport in the home of out of the flying school that our son runs. It's kind of a little out of place being over there by Zion, but it's the Illinois Aviation Academy. We just didn't have room for an airport up in the Chicago area, so we had to put it down there by Zion. The diorama on the back wall, in addition to showing where it crosses the Great Plains, you'll find Mount Rushmore, which is leading up into the Glacier Park. If anybody's ever driven out the Yellowstone or Glacier, you go through Rapid City and out to Mount Rushmore, and then you have the Rocky Mountains on the diorama going across behind the mountain scenery. And it ends up going on to the Pacific coast, where you'll see a train heading down the ocean shoreline towards Los Angeles and over into my wife's orchid garden, which is under lights across. We pretend it's Hawaii.
Your layout has carpet on it. Why did you use that as a road bed?
Okay, a couple of reasons. First of all, as you can see, it's a winter scene, okay? And white paint on plywood or whatever have you doesn't quite do the job for me. And I discovered, first of all, by using carpet on top of the plywood, you have absolute sound deadening. The only thing you hear on this layout is the click-click going across of the rails and the actual sounds the engines or the sound system makes.
Grandpa, what kind of track are you using on the layout?
Okay, the layout for the most part is used as Gargrave's flex track, and which actually isn't flex track. I bought mostly pieces of track. I have Ross and Gargrave switches. The upper level layout is all Lionel Super O, which was the last layout before that was all Super O. It isn't beyond having problems, but I had a lot of that track and I wanted to use it. Didn't want to throw it away or sell it, so I made the upper level layout all out of Super O track.
Using Super O track, is there a post-war flavor?
Absolutely. The Super O track lends to running the post-war trains up there. It's kind of like I like to run, it's basically one train at a time up there, so I can run non-command control trains as well as anything else. And I can't run the big long passenger cars. I can run the Lionel passenger cars that came out, but it's a nice flavor to show a difference in the track work and everything in the labs. Not many people come in, except if they're trained people, they understand the difference between the track. But gives it a taste where it's kind of brings it back to this is original post-war Lionel. And to be quite frankly, the upper layout, if that was all I had, I would be very happy with that. That was one of the bigger layouts I ever made when I was younger, and it brings me back to my days.
Grandpa, you have a lot of interesting trains. Can you tell me a little bit about your collection?
Why, certainly I can. You of course don't want the whole 9 yards, but we'll make it as concise as we can. I collect mostly post-war Lionel gauge trains. However, as life has progressed in the collecting of trains, the new trains that have been made in the last 30 years are just really, really special, so I have quite a few of them operating with the command control on the layout. The command control helps for the operation, especially with this layout, because I can run, there's curlicues that go around on the track work of this thing where I can run 2 or 3 trains following each other on a single track main line. I've got two passing sidings, one's under the mountain, and then 2 of them are under the station in the front.
When you think toy trains, you think Christmas. Is that why you chose to make your layout a Christmas theme?
Absolutely. It's when most people, including myself, and when I was younger, there was nothing better for me than Christmas, which I didn't get very often, than a Lionel train. And my Christmas is a wonderful theme. You can make the scenery really pretty, and lights and everything like that just add to Christmas. And that is when most people are indoors doing indoor things, and that's when the train layout gets its most use and most visitation. But Christmas is why it is what it is.
By the looks of it, you have a complex control board. Can you tell me a little bit on what you use to operate the layout?
Quite certain. I have three Z275 watt ZW transformers which power the whole thing. The control panel the layout is set up as prior to command control that you could run a couple of trains with two separate cabs on the same track. So the whole layout is divided up into blocks, usually about a train and a half long going everywhere. And each of the transformers, a handle on the far end is where somebody could sit driving their train as though that was their engineer. And then you can have a dispatcher in the middle, or the engineers can move the switches to whichever transformer of train that's supposed to be in that block. And you can follow each other around by doing that. And then all this switch power comes off the buses on the transformers, and then there's a transformer that is on the bottom that's for nothing more than lighting and accessories.
You got a lot of airplanes on your layout. Can you tell me about those?
Sure, George. As you probably know, and maybe many of you that are seeing this, I was a pilot for first North Central Airlines. We merged and became Republic Airlines, then we were bought by Northwest Airlines. Over the layout I have a DC-9 that I flew for many, many years as a pilot for North Central, and a Convair 580, which I also flew for North Central. On the layout, in the little airport, of course, we have a couple of little planes. There's a DC-3 there that I flew for North Central also. And there's a jet taking off that our other son was a pilot for Midwest Airlines, taking off from that airport. So airplanes have been a big part of our life. As a matter of fact, it's provided me with most everything I have. So that's why we have a lot of airplanes on the layout.
So looking around the layout, there's a lot of figurines. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure, certainly. My wife, who was in charge of basically the decoration of the layout, she thought we'd like to tell stories with everything we did with the layout, as I pointed out, the towns and everything. The figurines usually have a story to them. Like if you look by the church, there's a couple coming out of the church. That's where my wife and I were married. There's a courthouse with a young man coming out of the courthouse. That's our son, the lawyer. Then we have the football players in the back there, and they, I was a football coach for many years, and we have the various Disney characters hiding. And we generally, when people come to visit them, we hand them a little sheet of paper, and it has so that they look and find these little figurines. Like look for our daughter in a ranger. Where do you see her? That gets people to get attention to various things on the layout that they would just wouldn't find.
Thank you, Grandpa, for letting me share your layout with everyone. I hope they enjoyed it as much as I have over the years. Also, thanks to everyone for helping me reach the 2,000 subscriber mile mark. It really means a lot to me.
Another video made by